We went from saying trans women are men to, okay, well, trans women are women if they have top and bottom surgery and go on HRT, to, well, not all trans women can have surgeries or go on HRT because of money or health issues, to anybody can self-ID as a woman if they feel like that's what they are. This video is proof how horrible, Brooklyn accent coming out when I get angry, horrible of an idea that is, and how people are taking advantage of this. For those of you who are about to say, here we go, Ariel talking about trans people again, this bitch never shuts up, excuse me, this is a women's issue. I am a woman, I have the authority to speak about this. I have the right to speak about this. And for the people that say, well, that stuff never happens, it's happening. It's happening. Police forces let rapists record their gender as female. That is something I just said. First of all, can we talk about how, honestly, how male of a crime this is? Like, I'm not saying that females don't rape or can't rape. This story comes out of the UK. Police forces are recording suspected and convicted rapists as female if they no longer wish to identify with their male birth sex. Disclosed under the Freedom of Information laws that if someone is arrested for or convicted of rape, the official record will state the gender they choose to identify themselves as. So it doesn't matter if you raped somebody as a male with your male penis, you don't identify as a male anymore. Okay, well, off to the women's prison you go so you can rape some more people. And have the leisure of being in a safer environment, not being around other males. Side note, you ever notice that when trans women are victims, they're called trans women? But when trans women offend, they are simply called women. To me, this clearly suggests sympathy for trans women, which obviously, yes, is very legitimate. It simultaneously brings more hate towards women when it's clearly males, not cis women, not trans women, males, doing the crime. A convicted child rapist is being released from prison because they now identify as a woman. Blair talked about this on her channel yesterday, but for those of you who haven't seen it, a person named Josie Smith, who raped 15 children, was sent to prison in 2014.
In 2017, Joseph started going by the name of Josie, and they started using female pronouns, and they started gender transition. Now, as a trans woman, as someone who's read the information, I think that they found a way to circumvent the system. I think that they were trying to get out of their punishment. And I think that that's, first of all, it's reprehensible behavior. And second of all, regardless of their, sex drive, because that's what they said it was, Josie no longer has a male sex drive. Therefore, they're less likely to reoffend. When you have 15 victims between the ages of 1 to 13 years old, there is no, well, they're less likely to reoffend. They've lost the opportunity, in my eyes, to be a part of society. Even if Josie is a trans woman, as she claims to be, she should not receive special treatment. She should not be released back into public, and she should not be receiving any kind of surgeries or anything else.
And is now getting released because they are a woman and on estrogen and are deemed no longer a threat. First of all, I'm so sorry, just because it's very possible that your sex drive lowers when you go on HRT as a trans woman does not mean that you are less likely to continue to commit crimes that you committed before you were on HRT. And it also doesn't take away the fact that this person raped 15 children.
Rape, sexual assault, molestation has almost as much to do with power and just being a sadistic individual that wants to hurt someone for their own gratification than it does sexual gratification. For a lot of them who do this to people, it's not even really about that.
You shouldn't be released early because now you're considered lower risk. That doesn't make any sense. You're in there because you're paying for the crime that you did, not what you may or may not do in the future. What the fuck? I guess you could come out of prison and go on HRT if you are truly transgender. But transitioning should not be used as a literal get out of jail free card. Transitioning is a very real thing, and a lot of trans people suffer because of having that, disorder, gender dysphoria. We should not be allowing people to use this to their advantage. Second side note, I don't actually think that any of the people in this video that I'm talking about are actual trans women. I think they are men using the system to take advantage, to make trans women look horrible, and putting all women at risk. Here we go, here's another story. Transgender identified man who killed and dismembered his ex-girlfriend wins transfer to a women's prison. All the links to these stories will be in the description below, guys. Kristoffer Johansson, then age 23, stabbed to death his 20-year-old girlfriend in May 2013. He chopped up her body, scattered the parts throughout a forest, and then he also slaughtered and chopped up his dog. Apparently, he has identified as female since the age of 5, he said. He disclosed that he had begun gender-affirming treatment while in prison. He had applied for leave from the prison to visit the hospital and was prescribed hormone patches and testosterone blockers. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that if a person is sadistic enough to kill, dismember, and to kill and dismember your girlfriend and your dog, you are probably highly likely to also use trans identity and transitioning, knowing damn well that women's prisons have far less violence than men's. Also, I tried finding a video about this story just to pop it in here, but like everything's in Swedish, so I tried. What a lot of people who are hating on me right now in the comments or on Twitter aren't understanding about this specific topic is that this is not about trans women. This is about male men predators. Gonna read a tweet from this lovely trans woman. Sex self-ID puts both females and trans women at risk from male predators. And because gender identity is somewhat unobservable, there is no way to tell the difference between a male predator and a sincere trans woman. This is a trans woman that said this, and I agree with her. I know that self-ID was meant to help trans people, but I think it's doing the absolute opposite. We now have the Jessica Yanivs of the world claiming that they are women, demanding access to every single female space possible.
This is the latest salon that's facing a complaint from Jessica Yaniv, the transgender woman who's already complained to BC's Human Rights Tribunal about 15 other salons. She's transgender. The salon's owner, a practicing Sikh, told her they only waxed women. Yaniv filed a complaint 2 months later claiming discrimination. She wants $25,000 for the injury to her dignity and self-respect.
Somebody who has a biological male body into the back of the salon and have that person disrobed from the waist down.
Trans activists have called women TERFs for simply having a meeting, literally just having a meeting in the UK to discuss how the changing of the law will affect them.
These are trans activists protesting outside a feminist meeting. They're shouting TERF. It stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists.
Have we really gotten to the point where women can no longer talk about women's issues?
They sit and perpetuate a hateful rhetoric.
No one has the right to tell you how you want to or do not want to identify. That is up to you.
I haven't started any kind of hormone therapy yet or a full transition. So what will happen to the Gender Recognition Act directly affects me.
How did this even happen? I found a tweet that I think actually sums this up perfectly. Trans women are women. Women are cis. Cis is a privilege. Feminism is for women. Feminism fights oppression. Trans women are the most oppressed type of woman. Therefore, feminism must center them. And that's how it happened. Obviously, we all want the best for everybody, but I'm making this video specifically to talk about how harmful self-ID is to all types of women. I'm female, I'm a woman, I will continue to talk about these topics, regardless if people think that I have the right to or not. In my opinion, self-ID is being abused, it's making trans people look bad, it's putting trans women and cis women at risk. Recently at the Women's March, a few women were interviewed and asked to define what a woman was. Spoiler alert, they couldn't.
In a short interview, I'm not even sure how to answer that.
A woman is anyone that identifies as a woman. Simple as that.
I think a woman is like, if you identify as a woman, if you want to be a woman, then you're a woman.
I think it's a choice.
Yes. Yes, because I think it's a mindset.
And this is why it's so important to distinguish the difference between trans women and cis women. How can we have a women's march, which is meant to fight for rights and protections, if we cannot define one? I'm gonna end this video with a tweet and a response to that tweet that I think sums this all up very nicely. 2 cis women debating trans equality is like 2 men debating women's equality. We are not the voices that should be centered. And Helen Joyce, who I follow on Twitter, who's a feminist, apparently when the word woman is broadened to include people who are not female, only the non-females are allowed to talk about it. So what do you guys think about this all? Is self-identification more harmful or helpful to the trans community and to people in general? I obviously understand that being a trans woman is incredibly difficult, that they need to have separate segregated spaces to talk about issues that directly affect them. But also personally think that it's only valid if you give up your male privilege. And that's not to say that there isn't female privilege too. If you present completely as male and as a man and go through the world as such and expect to be let into female spaces, that reeks of entitlement. And you expecting the world to cave to a reality that is literally at that time only in your own head. All I'm saying is give up your male or man privilege in some way, because honestly, the biggest part of being a woman is no longer being seen as a man.